Ever feel like you have an opinion on something, but wonder if it actually matters? Well, today, we're going to trace that hidden path from a single idea, maybe your idea, all the way to becoming the law of the land. Let's dive in.
Yeah, that path, from just a thought in your head to an actual law, it can feel super complicated, right? But the journey actually starts in places you might not even think about because, well, government is already all around you every single day.
And that's the first thing we really have to get. Government isn't this distant, abstract thing up in the clouds. No way. It's woven right into the fabric of our daily lives. Think about it. COVID safety guidelines, the rules at your public school, who gets a student loan, even Social Security for your family. These aren't just random rules. They're the end result of a process. And if you want to have a voice, you've got to understand that process.
All right, so if government is the system we use to solve our collective problems, how does it, work? To really get a handle on it, we first need to pull apart two words we tend to throw around like they're the same thing: government and politics.
Okay, first up, government. The simple way to think about it is that government is the institutions. We're talking Congress, the president, the courts, all those federal agencies. It's like the hardware of a computer, the physical structures where all the big decisions get made.
So, if government is the hardware, what's running on it? What's the software? Well, that's politics. There's this classic, absolutely brilliant definition from political scientist Harold Lasswell, who said politics is simply who gets what, when, and how. It's the actual process, right? The debate, the struggle over who gets the good stuff and who foots the bill.
So here's the key takeaway, the big difference. Politics is the game. Government is the stadium where the game is played. It's all the action, the debate, the decision-making that happens inside those formal institutions we just talked about.
Okay, so how does this game actually get played out in the stadium? Well, there's a kind of blueprint for how your voice can become action. Think of it like a machine with 5 basic steps.
It all kicks off with you, with people, just having interests, problems, concerns. Now, to get those concerns into this system, they have to go through something called a linkage institution. That sounds fancy, but it's just stuff like voting, the media covering a story, or an interest group pushing for a cause. These things get your issue onto what's called the policy agenda, which is pretty much the official to-do list for the people in charge. And from there, the big policy-making institutions, Congress, the president, the courts, they take over, they do their thing, and boom, the final result is a public policy.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because public policy isn't just one thing. It's not always some huge law. It could be, for sure, like a statute passed by Congress, but it could also be a direct action from the president, or a major court decision that changes everything, or even just a new rule from an agency like the EPA. All of these are the real, tangible things that come out the other end of that machine we just described.
Okay, so we've got the system down. We see the blueprint, but that just leads to the biggest, most important question of all, doesn't it? Inside that system, who really has the juice? Who actually holds the power to get their problems on that agenda and push them all the way through into policy? And this might actually surprise you, but a lot of the founders, they were super skeptical about letting the people rule directly. Listen to this quote from Roger Sherman, one of the guys at the Constitutional Convention. "The people lack information and are constantly liable to be misled." Wow, that shows a real fear that the public just couldn't be trusted. And that tension, right there, has been at the core of American democracy from the very beginning.
Of course, the ideal we're always aiming for is democracy, right? A system where the policies actually reflect what the citizens want. But does our system really do that? Well, political thinkers have come up with 3 pretty different answers to that question.
So let's break these down. First, you've got pluralism. This theory says, hey, it's all good. It's a healthy competition. You have all these different groups, environmental groups, business groups, you name it. They all compete, they compromise, and what comes out is pretty close to what the public wants. But then you have the elitist theory, which is like, nah. It says our society is really run by a tiny, super wealthy elite, who are the ones pulling all the strings behind the scenes. And then there's a third idea, hyperpluralism. This one says the problem is that there are too many powerful groups, and they're all so strong they basically pull the government in a million different directions at once, leaving it totally weakened and unable to get anything done.
And that last one, hyperpluralism, points to a huge challenge in our system. It leads to something called policy gridlock. Think of it like a massive traffic jam on the highway. Everybody's trying to go somewhere, but everyone is also blocking everyone else, so nobody moves. That's gridlock. No single group is strong enough to win, so nothing gets done at all.
This whole problem of gridlock, this idea of a government that's paralyzed because it's being pulled in too many directions, it feeds right into what is maybe the great timeless debate in American politics. Is the government just too big, or is it not big enough? And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, you really only need to see two numbers. First, let's talk about what it spends. We're looking at around $4.8 trillion a year. I mean, that's a number so big it's almost impossible to wrap your head around.
And the second number? Who it employs. We're talking about 24 million people. That's everyone from your local teacher to the postal worker. The sheer scale of it all is just immense. And of course, that scale is exactly what fuels this huge debate.
So, is this massive government a good thing or a bad thing? It really breaks down into two main camps. On one side, you have people who want an active, involved government. They argue it's the only way we can ever solve huge problems, like protecting the environment or making sure there's a safety net for people. But on the other side, you have people who want a more limited government. Their argument is that individuals make better decisions than bureaucrats, and that every time the government gets bigger, our freedom gets a little smaller.
Ronald Reagan summed up that limited government view perfectly with this famous line: "As government expands, liberty contracts." It frames the whole debate as a simple trade-off, right? The bigger the government gets, the less personal freedom we have.
So let's pull it all together. We've seen the machine, we've met the players, and we've heard the great debate over just how big it should all be. Look, the system is not perfect, not by a long shot. It can get hijacked by elites or just frozen solid by gridlock. But at its core, it is a system designed for your concerns to be heard. So the real final question isn't if you'll have a role in all this. The question is, what's your role going to be? Are you going to be a spectator on the sidelines, or are you going to be a voice that's powerful enough to turn your opinion into law?